Welcome back to another episode of the Stat Connect. Joe and I are back this week. We're going to talk about the Baylor game for Utah and how that went and how the Utes were able to escape that one in such a tough field atmosphere. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what's coming up with the Weber State game.
Escape is right. That was a Utah fans sweated almost as much as the players were sweating on that hot field. That was not as comfortable as I think a lot of folks were hoping, or as you and I predicted. But it was certainly exciting, especially at the end. What were your kind of main takeaways, man?
Well, as I was watching this game, I couldn't help but think about the Brewer days. It just really seemed like Utah was just stuck, and it's amazing how the play at quarterback can make such an impact on the entire team. And so I just kind of saw it felt so much like it went with the Charlie Brewer games, where just the offense just didn't seem to click. And so it was so hard to sit there and watch as Ludwig kept kind of keeping with the system of switching between, having two quarterbacks in there. We had Nate Johnson, and sometimes he was doing it one play at a time. It's almost like he was speeding that up, and you had Nate Johnson going, you had Bryson Barnes coming in, and just no flow whatsoever. And so I think the big change there is just when he finally went just with Bryson Barnes, and we could see that just wasn't going to work. But then when he switched to Nate Johnson, everything seemed to flow. And it was really in that final 7 minutes. And so what I've told people that have asked me about it, I said, hey, don't even look at the game other than the final 7 minutes of this game. And when you look at those final 7 minutes when Nate Johnson took over, it was just fantastic. I mean, everything seemed to flow. They finally trusted Nate to throw the ball, and he made the throws that needed to be made. It was great to see the freshmen all step up. I mean, you had Mikey Matthews out there making great catches. You had Jalen Glover running with power and hitting those holes. I hadn't seen him run that way in any other game this season or last. And so for me, I just say, hey, look at that final 7 minutes, and hopefully that's what we see from this team going forward into Weber State. And then hopefully we get Cam Rising back. But even if Rising isn't able to go 100%, or if the Utes need to rely on Nate Johnson, it was very exciting to see that there's a possibility there that could happen. So what did you think?
Yeah, I certainly agree in terms of the tale of two games. There was very much a first half, or first 53 minutes, and a second half when Nate Johnson was allowed to kind of take over the offense. He was just much freer with the ball, willing to throw to the open man. Didn't think as much, wasn't rolling out for no reason. He was just much more comfortable running the offense, and you could really see the difference. I think that Utah fans should be concerned about Utah's offense, though. It's obvious that 22 points a game, which is what Utah's average so far, is not going to be enough. And while you do expect Keithy and Rising to return and to add a jolt to that offense, statistically, you're looking at, on average, each one will add 3 to 4, maybe at the outside 5, if we're talking about a really below average quarterback situation.
Yeah.
So you might see Utah pick up another 6 to 8 points per game from where they've been on average. And you're seeing consistent stats under 6 yards per play. The offense really has been struggling. It's not a few plays here or there. So I don't know if 28 or 29 or 30 points per game is going to be enough to be competitive in the Pac-12 when they enter into this slate. So I think while absolutely, the quarterback situation had a big impact, not just on passing, but on the entire structure of the game. I still think that Utah fans should be concerned about this offense, and if Utah's going to be stuck with another one of these years where they've got a top 10 defense and an offense that just can't quite keep up in a way that makes them the 10-11 win team that they've been in recent history. Digging into the numbers a little bit. Bryson Barnes was the lead quarterback, and he switched back and forth, but Bryson Barnes was really the lead quarterback on 10 drives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of those drives ended in failure. 2 of them ended in field goals. Total of 210 yards, less than 4 yards per play on those. And then when Nate Johnson took over, it did get a lot better. But from an efficiency standpoint, from my statistical standpoint, it was still under 6 yards per play. It was 5.57. Baylor's not a great defense. Utah should have been able to run all over them all day. And they should have been able to pass on them fairly easily, and they didn't. And that suggests that that there are other talent issues besides just the challenges that they had at quarterback. And I'm very interested to see how this game goes this week, because you don't really learn a lot from playing an FCS team, but there is a difference between an offense that scores 42 or 49 against an FCS team and an offense that puts up 63 or 70 and can essentially score at will until they get tired and bring in the twos. And so it's going to be interesting to see if, with Nate Johnson under center or in the shotgun, I guess, for most of this next game, are they going to be able to have that kind of 60 to 70 point per game pace that you want to see from a conference champion caliber team?
Yeah. No, I actually went back and looked at last year, and Utah beat Southern Utah 73-7, and then the year before that, it was 40-17. So it's exactly what you're talking about. The 40-17. But that same year was when they switched to Cam Rising after a few games, and then the offense took off.
Yeah.
So that's where I do feel a little bit of hope that maybe they found what they needed to find in this game, and they were able to still escape with a win. So I do feel good about that.
Yeah.
So
this is one of those areas where numbers can really be misleading, because while you say, all right, replacement quarterback is worth 3 points a game, QBR top 10 quarterback is worth 9 points a game. They're going to score 5 more points per game. They're going to get an extra yard per play. It really doesn't capture the kind of magic that an exciting quarterback can have, in the way it can change the line play and the receiver play and all of those kinds of things. And then there's also stochasticity, right? This is the first couple of games for this football team. They're just getting started. There's some new talent. They're just figuring it out. And it's just random. It's only a sample size of a few dozen plays. And it may be that the offense is really a lot better than this, and that they're just happen to have their 2 worst games of the season. The first 2 games of the season, they'll perform a lot better. So there's a lot still that we don't know. But I think that Utah fans should be watching this Weber State game closely. And I think especially if we get another performance where the Utes are putting up less than 50 points, we're seeing the team that we're seeing take shape is not a Pac-12 championship kind of team. It's a bowl team. It's a good team, but not a team that can threaten, especially when you look at the strength of the schedule. But you were looking a lot at Weber State. I think you had a lot to say about the talent of that team. What have you been seeing with them?
Yeah, Weber State, they're not like just any other FCS team. This is a good FCS team. They've been a top 10 team 5 of the last 6 years in the FCS. They've made the playoffs 6 of the last 7 years. So they're not a team that you can just kind of sleepwalk through playing. They've got some really talented players. Their running back, Damon Bankston, he's done really well. He's already rushed for over 100 yards in each of their first 2 games. And so he's a guy they got to watch out for. I don't think Utah will have too much trouble with him. And actually, the Weber State offense as a whole, they've got 6th-year junior Kylan Wisser as the quarterback. And he's only been able to complete about 50% of his passes for about 150 yards a game. So I look at Weber State against Utah's really strong defense. I'm not really sure they're going to score at all. The only way they will is if our offense kind of hands them the ball at a spot that allows them to score, because they won't. I just don't see them being able to rely on their running game, and that's their strong point. And so if they try to pass, you've got a passer that's only been able to throw, complete 50% of his passes against 2 FCS teams. So, yeah, I don't see Weber State having a lot of success, even though they do have some really good players. Even defensively, they've got a linebacker, Winston Reed. He's the Big Sky defensive MVP preseason. And so he's a guy that's really good. They've got a couple of good corners as well that have done well in FCS level. But again, like you've said, it's just such a different talent gap. and depth gap between FCS and FBS, especially with Utah being a 12th ranked team in the nation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to see this game being competitive. I had a lot of the
Yeah.
same thoughts looking at that Weber State stats. A lot of signs of some real offensive inefficiency problems, really similar in some ways to what Utah's shown these first two games. So,
Yeah.
great assault, same thing, right? It's only a few games. They were way ahead the whole time. They didn't need to work very hard, so they may not really be getting an accurate look at this team from the stats yet.
Yeah.
Uh, Putting up about 5.8 yards per play, which is low, and 29% on third down conversions, which is 100. And if it was in the FBS, would be 120th or 121st out of 130 teams. So really, really rough third down percentage suggests a team that's not going to be able to move the sticks very well. But if you look at the model, caveat with this, my model is designed to predict the score results of conference games, right? This is built around picking conference games, who's going to win the conference. That's what it's most accurate. When you start talking about teams where there's a lot of results and you're modeling the game, there's a lot of results in the 50, 60, 70 point win range. It kind of breaks the model down. I've got a 99. I've actually got a 99.9% chance, which means there was no instance of the simulations that I ran where Weber State won this game. They're not going to win this game. It's a question of how much, not whether. Utah blowout, I actually moved the blowout up to 21 or better and got a 95% chance of this. It was close to, I think it was a 98.5% chance to be better than 14. Utah's going to win this game by a lot, and it's really just a question of how much. I have a lot of concerns about the offense watching, and I'm not picking the Utes to really blow them out in that 70-7 kind of way. I think the defense is going to completely lock them down, but once they're up 30 plus points, that we'll see the 2s and 3s start to come in on the line, and I think that running back who is a heck of a talent is going to be able to break some gaps. He's got some big run explosive playability. With runs over 60 yards in both of his games. So if he gets loose, he might be hard to catch. He's fast. So I do think they'll probably score a touchdown, and ultimately, I don't think Utah's going to be able to break that half century mark. And I'm picking a final score of 49-10, just based on what I've seen out of the offense so far. I think Ute fans should hope I'm wrong. If they want Utah to contend for a Pac-12 championship, they're going to want to see a score more like 70-10. But 49-10 is my pick today.
I think that's a fair pick. I think I'm going a little bit higher than that, just because I think
you're always more optimistic.
I know, maybe too optimistic. I was really off last week with the offense. I think it's hard to predict when you don't know for sure if Cam Rising's going to play. There's a chance he might come in for a quarter, try to shake off some of the rust before starting conference play. But I just see so much depth on this team, especially on the defense, that I don't see. I'm only going to give Weber State a field goal. And then offensively, I think they're going to want to play Nate Johnson as much as they can. And I think with a talent like Nate Johnson going up against an FCS team, I think the offense is really going to look a lot like it did in the final 7 minutes of that Baylor game. I think they found something. I think they're going to run the ball a lot, and it's going to work really well because the line play will just – it should. If Utah can't run the ball against Weber State, then, like you said, there's some real concerns to have. So I think we'll see a heavy dose of Jalen Glover, Jaquindon Jackson just a little bit. They'll probably try to rest up some of those guys, some of those regulars. Probably see some Charlie Vincent runs. Whittingham said he's not really comfortable yet with the freshman running backs, but maybe he can get them in just a little bit, which would be great. So that's my hope, is that Utah can open it up quickly in the first half and then let the depth go in and still add a few more points. So I think I'm just going to go up just a little bit more than you. I'm going to go 56-3 is my prediction, just because I really feel like they found something. I think if I didn't see that final 7 minutes, I would be like 33-10 or something. So it's nice to see some optimism from the end of that game.
Sounds good. It's going to be fun and definitely one worth to watch. A lot of information to be gained, I think, watching how this team's able to perform. Even given the strength of opponent, I'm certainly looking forward to it, and looking forward to not having sweat roll down the small
Yeah,
of my back the first
yeah,
45 minutes. Like,
that was.
let's see these Utes score a few touchdowns early, and I could crack a beer, and crack your beverage of choice, and just relax and enjoy the game.
It could be fun to see too, to see what can Nate Johnson do when he gets 2 full quarters, maybe even 3 full quarters of work. We have never seen that. He's got such a small sample size, and so can he air it out? Can he break some big runs? It'll be fun. I think it'll be fun to watch that and start to see what's the future of the Utah offense, especially.
Awesome, man. Well, good chat with you again. We'll see everybody next week, and just keep watching this season evolve.